Hello, welcome everybody. This is In Conversations with Chana. I'm Chana Weisberg, and I have a special guest for you tonight. I'm joined by Devorah Goldberg. Welcome, Devorah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Devorah has quite an incredible story to share with us about a pregnancy loss and the laws of family purity that actually contributed to the early detection of this loss. Devorah, first tell us a little about yourself. Where do you live? How many children do you have? What do you do?
Okay. So I live in Florida. I live in Coral Springs with my husband and three children. And we actually used to live in Toronto. So this is the nice warm weather is new for us.
For
But
sure.
I am never I never cease to be in awe of the palm trees and the beautiful weather, which is all year round.
I know
And what do
palm
I
trees are
do?
my favorite, absolute favorite. I think if you
Right?
didn't see them, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And what do I do? I'm an interior designer and I design commercial spaces, interiors of residential spaces as well. And I'm also the host of a podcast called Sparked by Hollywood, which I started back in November. And it's going strong, one episode per week. And my life is full, Baruch Hashem.
That sounds
Primarily
very,
my family, but yeah, everything else too.
that sounds very full. So how many children do you have?
Three kids, thank
Three
God.
children. Wow.
Yeah.
And what are their ages?
Chesky's 16, Adina is 14, and Dusty's 11. I have to think because, like, when their birthdays happen, I'm like,
Right.
okay, how old are they now?
Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. And what brought you into interior design? What got you into doing that?
So, actually, I was a teacher when I first started off. My first couple of years, I was teaching elementary school. And I found that in the evening times, I was just marking papers. I was speaking to parents. I was, preparing so much. And I said, I want a career that I love, but I'm not taking home with me at night. So I decided interior design sounds good. I'm creative. Let me go to school and learn that. But then I found myself bringing all the work home as well anyway. So that part didn't really fan
The
out
work, the
too
work
well.
never ends, right? It never ends.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell us a little about this story of yours. When did this happen? When did this loss that you experienced happen?
So in 2016, I was pregnant, unbeknownst to me. And what happened was a number of weeks leading up to when I figured out that I was pregnant, or when I found out, I was experiencing a lot of abdominal pain and a lot of bleeding. So the abdominal pain, we as women, or maybe I should just speak for myself, I push it to the side. Even, monthly menstruation, I'm like, okay, fine, it's going to happen for a day or two. Skip the Tylenol. I can handle it. We still have dinners to make. We still have to go to work. We have shopping. We got kids. It's fine. So I was just kind of letting it go. I was just kind of turning a blind eye to it. The problem that was bothering to me was the fact that I had just finished my period. So it started off with my period lasting about 5-6 days. And as a religious Jew, I keep the family purity laws, which means that at the time when a woman has her menstruation, in addition to 7 clean days afterwards, and what I mean by 7 clean days, those are the days when we check ourselves internally to make sure that there's no menstruation flowing at that time. So it's kind of like a buffer zone. And then at the end of the 7 clean days, that's when we immerse in the mikvah, and then we can be reunited with our husband. Oh, I didn't say that part. The reason why we follow these laws is because we're taking a physical separation from our husbands. And then when we immerse in the mikvah, we get together again. We can be intimate. And that's a time when we look forward to it all the time. So in this particular instance, I had gotten my period. I was checking my 7 clean days. It got up to day number 4 and I started to bleed. So I started to bleed, and you figure out that it's the color is no good, meaning it's menstruation blood or something going on. And I said, okay, I got to start again. So I started counting my 7 clean days again, because we need to have a complete 7 clean days in order to immerse in the mikvah. So I started again, and maybe on day number 2, I started to bleed again. And then I got clean again. And then on day number 4. So this was week after week. This was a couple of weeks trying to get clean, me getting very frustrated, my husband getting very frustrated. But obviously, it's a process, and sometimes these things happen with a woman's body. It's not always so clean and clear, mind the pun. So
So you kept on bleeding, and this was going on for how long? About a period of
about 3-4 weeks.
3-4 weeks. Okay.
And
And you were
in
also
during this,
experiencing abdominal pain during this time.
correct.
Okay, but you didn't think to see the doctor because
I did.
you
I
did.
did. After a few weeks, I said, this is strange. This is odd. And it was, getting into the Rosh Hashanah time, the Yom Kippur time. And I said, I got to figure this out. It's getting very busy. So I went to a doctor. She checked me out and she said, I don't see a problem. Women bleed all the time. You're okay. Just take this pill. It's going to stop your bleeding and you're good to go. And with my women intuition, I knew there was something else to just the bleeding. Our bodies just shouldn't bleed on and off like that. So that was a question mark for me, but I still didn't know the answer. I didn't know what was going on. Fast forward a couple of days. My husband was out of town. He went to Vancouver to daven for a congregation there for Yom Kippur. And I was home with the kids. I was planning on just spending Yom Kippur at home with them, having a low-key day, fasting, taking care of kids. And then that morning I woke up, I was in extreme pain. So I called my bubby. I said, can you come over and watch the kids? I have to check something out. You know how you have to downplay it when the bubby is involved.
Sure.
So she said, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'll come over. I drove myself to the hospital, and what took a number of hours and a number of tests, but the emergency room always takes ridiculously long. They found out that I was pregnant, and they wanted to know if the fetus was still alive, if there was a living heartbeat. So they did an ultrasound, and they did indeed find a heartbeat. And they told me, ma'am, you're not going home. And I said, what do you mean? There's this fast day going on tonight. It's the holiest day of the year. I've got 3 kids at home. My husband's out of town. Can we work something out? I promise I'll come back tomorrow night. They said, there's no way. We don't know if you're going to last because it has been going on for so long. So they said, we have to rush you into surgery and you're staying right here.
Because why? Because when you have this kind of pregnancy, like, explain what was it that was so harmful?
So firstly, it had infected my fallopian tube. Oh, okay. And that's why, and the baby was growing there. So that's why it was causing me so much discomfort, such extreme pain.
So was this a danger to your life?
It was a danger to my life. They said, you might not make it back to your kids if we don't take out this baby tonight.
Wow. So that's amazing that you actually went that day to the hospital.
Exactly. Wow. So the timing was
not the greatest.
Not the greatest, but it was timely.
Vancouver, right?
Okay. Yeah. So all these mixing emotions were happening simultaneously. Firstly, my logical mind was like, I got to get my kids organized for Yom Kippur. So I had to figure out which family member they're going to go to. I got on the phone with my daughter. I said, pack up this and this and this and this, while I'm trying to control myself. I don't want them to see that I'm crying or something's going on. Wow. So the practical side of that had to be taken care of. And then I called my husband. I don't know if I called him first or after that, but I told him what was going on. There was clearly nothing he can do from being 5 hours apart from me. Wow. Besides for sharing words of comfort, words of understanding. It happened to be that the next day in the middle of davening, he happened to faint because Yom Kippur started for me, for him, and there was no way we can communicate. And I guess that was on his mind.
Oh, wow. And that's so hard. Wow.
Yeah. So thank God he's okay.
Right. So you spoke to him, you got your children organized, and?
Yeah. And then I was alone. I was alone with my thoughts. You have to wait a number of hours from when you last ate. So they said, when did you last eat? I had breakfast at 8 a.m. So they said, okay, you can go into surgery 8 p.m. Oh, wow. So I had a number of hours that I was fasting on Erev Yom Kippur when everyone was rushing to have their last meal before the fast. I was fasting and there was nothing to do but wait. And I was also in pain at the same time. And I had this overwhelming feeling of, I have this living heartbeat inside of me. I had the time to contemplate then, right? I was all by myself. I was waiting. I was a mother carrying, nurturing this baby for this small amount of time. I didn't know it before. But now that I knew that I had this responsibility, this motherly responsibility of holding a baby, even though it wasn't going to last. Just that motherly instinct felt so
What were the
overwhelming.
feelings? What were the thoughts that were going through your head then?
So, a couple of thoughts. Number one, I'm a mother and I'm
Hmm.
holding on to you, and you're causing me a lot of pain, but I'm
Hmm.
still your mother. And I know it's not going to last. I know in a few hours, I'm going to send you back up to Hashem because that's his will. Now, as they told me in the hospital that there's a heartbeat, because I'm musical, I think of songs when people say words.
Hmm.
So, Nechama Cohen has a song called Heartbeat.
Hmm.
And the main stanza was very pertinent to what was happening. Just like a heartbeat that's rising and falling, sinking and soaring, it keeps you alive. There, there may be ups and downs. There's no time to waste for waiting around. It was really beautiful and was touching at that moment. And then I came to the realization that there's an neshama inside of me that's going to be sent back up to Hashem,
And a shama meaning a soul, a
a soul.
spiritual soul, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't just a body, it was actually soul.
exactly. And there's this song that A.B. Rottenberg composed many years ago. And it's so touching to me because the song is about the soul and about the soul which is in heaven. And it's about to come down to the earth. And because it was so meaningful to me, I actually played that song when I was in labor with my 3 children.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and I felt that connection with it because I was actually bringing the soul down into the world through my body.
Hmm.
And when they told me
Very
that the
powerful.
soul, yes, exactly. And when they told me that the soul, this baby, was going to be no more, I was singing the last stanza of his song, which is when the angel says to the soul, I'm ready to take you back up to the heavenly throne. And I felt this feeling of, I'm here to guide you. I'm here to lead you. Hashem, you decided this. This is my job right now. And I just kept on singing it in my mind. And um, that's how I went into surgery.
Wow.
Mm,
That's so beautiful. It's like sad and beautiful at the same time. Such a combination of
yeah.
such thoughts. Wow. So you were singing this song to yourself as you went into surgery,
Yeah.
thinking about how you were giving back this soul to God,
Yes.
this precious soul that you really had for just a few hours,
A few
basically.
hours. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. And what happened
Yeah.
next?
What happened next was, well, actually, I'm just going to throw in another piece of a beautiful part of the story is that I always wanted to thank E.B. Rottenberg. I'm a person who likes to thank people. I like to give people gifts, make people happy, especially surprise them when they don't realize how they've impacted me or some situation. So I've wanted to thank him for years, but I just never looked for his email address. I never got his number. I happened to decide to interview him on my podcast, talking about Jewish music versus Hollywood music. Fascinating interview. Um, and at the end, I said, Abe, I want to tell you a story, how you've impacted my life. And I told him the story. And it was so meaningful to me to be able to give that over to him and realize and help him realize how far his message has come because who knows what year he composed that song, like in the 80s,
Sure.
maybe. And in
Right.
2016, it brought meaning into a very difficult moment. And not even the difficult one, the beautiful moments of bringing my children into this world.
Wow. What was his reaction?
He's a humble person. He was he
Wow.
was he was happy.
I
Yeah.
guess it just goes to show we never know, like, the ripple effect of what we do, of anything good that we do. You just never you don't hear about it always, you just don't know what you've done, what you've accomplished
Exactly.
with a smile, with a good deed, with anything that you've done.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's
Exactly.
so beautiful.
So So back to the story. So I woke up after surgery and I spent the next day, Yom Kippur, in the hospital. And before I was leaving, the night afterwards, I got a couple of instructions from the doctor. And the doctor said, by the way, no intimacy with your husband for another 4 weeks until surgery is all healed up. And I'm like, do you know how long we haven't touched for?
Mhm.
It's so easy just to say that it's not possible. And I'm like, you don't even know what this means. Like we just want to cry in each other's arms. Like we're not even, we're so far from each other. And then when we come, when my husband comes home, we just want to experience this loss, this experience together. But we're committed. We're committed to family purity. And we're committed that when when I was menstruating, we are separate. We don't touch. We're not physically intimate until I have gone to the mikvah. So
So you're
it
living in the same house, you're doing things together, you're raising your children together, you're talking, you're emotionally connecting, but you're just not physically touching.
exactly.
Wow. Hi again, everyone. I'm sorry for all these technical difficulties, but we are back and we're back with Devora Goldberg. Devora, you were just telling us a little bit more about, you were saying how hard it is to keep this commitment. I think a lot of women feel this commitment of family purity. It's hard. I mean, you couldn't touch your husband, you wanted a hug, and yet you were committed to this, to taharat mishpacha, to the laws of family purity, where there is no physical touch, even in a time when you so wanted it. How would you respond to women who feel this is just too difficult?
So when people say that it's too difficult, it's definitely something which requires some restraint, some commitment, some sense of um, holding yourself back, but really seeing the whole picture. We do the same thing every day when we stop at a red light, when we stop at a stop sign, when we go to a store and we don't walk out with our merchandise without paying for it. We all practice the sense of restraint, and there's a reason why. So the Torah presented this to us, and the reason why we have this mitzvah, or what is the benefit of it, is that when we pull apart and restraint from physical connection with our husband or husband to the wife, it's what I call love in a champagne bottle. So you look forward to this time when it's after your period and it's after the 7 clean days and you're finally immersing in the mikvah. But while you're looking forward, you may have days that you want to cuddle. You may have days that you want to give a quick hug or kiss. You may have days that you really want to get physically close, but you can't. So it's like that champagne bottle that when you shake it, the carbonation is building up. So you have this excitement inside of you, but it's being confined to a bottle. It's being confined to inside of you. It's being confined inside of your husband. There's one person you can share this with, and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're excited and you're holding back, but you want to hug and you want to be intimate, but you can't. And then finally, when that bottle top pops, the excitement is overflowing and you get to experience that on a real emotional, healthy level. And that's really what the Torah has imbued within the Jewish marriage. Did I even answer your question? Because I feel like I went off on a tangent a bit.
No, you definitely did. You definitely answered. That's great. Um, I guess the commitment, though, is, you're saying it's a commit. It helps you on an emotional level, on a physical level, on a sexual level. It makes you feel that closeness and that connection.
Mm-hmm.
What about someone who doesn't feel that way? What about if it's not working in that way, or situations where it might be extreme and not working? Is it then that we just fall back on the fact that this is a commitment that we have to God? Or what is it that keeps you from holds you and keeps you doing it in those situations?
Right. So that's a great question. And I think there's two sides to that. So number one, the question is, how do we see the benefit of it in our lives? And number two, if we feel that, hey, this is doing nothing for us, why would we keep it? Why would we continue acting this way? So number one, I think that anyone could see the benefit of this, because we have the rule, I call it the rule of constant, where anything in this world which is constant becomes boring over time. Our favorite place to vacation, our palm trees outside, unless we actually work hard and we're always, enjoying it. But yeah, maybe that's not a good example. Our favorite restaurant, anything could become boring over time. And the Torah knows that there's no difference between husband and wife as well. We live together. We're under the same roof. We share a life. We're making decisions together. We're raising our family, hopefully, together. And it can get boring. So let's spice it up. And this is how it is literally embedded within our marriage. Now, if someone feels like this is doing nothing for me, or I don't feel like doing it this month, I did it last month, I'll take a break. So that's the time to realize that it's God's will. And with us doing God's will, not because we want it, but because Hashem wants it, that is actually connecting to Him and bringing Him into our marriage, into the three-pronged relationship that we have. It's not only the connection, as you know, that we have with our husband, but that's bringing Hashem into the home as well. And I find that I see the correlation, how this actually saved my life. And this was a very pertinent part of my story, because like I said in the beginning, I was feeling pain, but I was just casting it aside. But at the same time, I really wanted to be together with my husband. We wanted to reconnect, but I couldn't. And that was a red flag for me. Even if the doctor said, you're fine, blood is no problem, she didn't understand the Jewish aspect, the family purity aspect, that I wanted to reconnect. And because of that red
what
flag,
really pushed you, I guess, to really find out. And that's what helped you to detect that there was this problem.
exactly.
Wow. Interesting. That's quite amazing. How are you feeling now about your loss?
How do I feel about my loss? I feel that I had a task to house a baby inside of me for a number of weeks, and I accepted it. I feel that I beautified the moment by connecting to song that helped me really ground me in that moment. And like I said, it's probably one of my favorite songs, "Come With Me, Little Neshama," that really just really grounded me in that moment and connected me with this baby. I do connect with my baby soul. I say it's kapitel not every single day when I remember, I should say, because it's a soul and it's a part of me and it's a part of the family.
For those who don't understand, what do you mean you say his capital? You say his chapter in Psalms corresponding to his
Exactly.
age. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I'll say my kids' kapitel, their chapter as well, and I'll say this, and I say the Psalm of the Soul, whatever age it is. Right now, it's about 6. It's been about 6 years. So, and at the same time, I'm left with gratitude, because at the time when my husband and I were experiencing this, there was a culminative, the whole time that we were actually physically separated, we could not touch each other, and we weren't sexually active. This was about 3 months. So when we talk about 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off, and the commitment to taking that break, and then we see that sometimes people are challenged. They have medical situations that may come up, and sticking with that commitment, whether it's easy or not, allows us to foster and build the other side of the relationship, which is communication, compassion, understanding. So that's maybe husband buying the wife flowers. Maybe at that time, my husband let me sleep in a little bit more. Maybe he took care of dinners and took care of bedtime for the kids a little bit more. And just talking and feeling things out, because touching wasn't an option.
So it's really about, I guess, keeping an emotional connection, developing an emotional connection, because sometimes physical, a kiss could cover so much, and here you have to really work through the issues of your relationship. So in
Exactly.
those 2 weeks where you're not touching, you're actually looking at the relationship as a whole, as, as not only the physical aspects of it, but also the emotional and other parts of it where you're really working on
Absolutely.
it. Interesting.
And I have heard from some women that it's very hard for them. It's a very hard mitzvah to keep the time away from their husband, the preparation from for the mikvah in the midst of a very busy day, or sometimes you're on vacation and you got to fit it into your schedule. And I was going somewhere with this.
How it's difficult, how it's sometimes difficult.
Yes, the emotional side is very real. And
Mhm.
yes, we dealt with it for 3 months, being separated while we were under the same roof, but not touching for 3 months. But even for 2 weeks, it's very real. It's a feeling that you really want to be together. And I think acknowledging that to yourself as a woman, and also acknowledging that between husband and wife, is super important to get through it, because you're acknowledging that you want each other. So that's a good thing. And you can say, this is hard, but you know what? We have 3 more days. We got 2 more days. I'm really excited. What are we going to do exciting? We're going to have a dinner and, spice it up, make it exciting, and tell each other that you really miss each other, because that's the essential component to a marriage.
Right. Wow. I'm curious what happened with your children. How did they react did they understand what happened when you came back after Yom Kippur?
They did understand. I did explain to them that I was pregnant and the baby was supposed to grow in the middle of my stomach, and it was growing in the side, and it was stopping right there, and there's only so much place that the baby can grow. And they were sad. They've reminisced over the years, if the baby had been born, we would have had a sibling this or this or this age. And we talk about it because it's a form of grieving, of mourning, of loss, of what could have been, and we make space for it, and we talk about it, and we just acknowledge what was and thank Hashem for our health. And I think it gives kids an extra sense of compassion, knowing that different things happen in different people's lives.
Right.
And it's not
Right.
always so rosy.
Right. Well, Devorah, we're happy that you are here with us today. We're glad that you're well and healthy, and that
Thank you.
you found this pregnancy in the right time so that you could save your life. God forbid what could have happened if you hadn't gone to the hospital that day.
Mm-hmm.
Is there
Yeah.
any message or lasting thoughts that you want to share with us about your story?
I think my thoughts, sorry.
What you take from it, like what you think back when you think of that story. What's the lingering message that you have for it?
I think my lingering message is, and something that I always reflect upon, is that we are all on a journey in life. And I know that sounds cliche. People talk about it all the time. We're all on a journey. But I think that if we look within ourselves and we reflect somewhat, I like to meditate sometimes, just sit in silence, understand what's going on, um, understand that there's a reason why things happen, finding a deeper meaning, finding beauty in it. That's essentially what I did when I found out that I was pregnant and that the baby was going to be taken out, and that my life was being saved, essentially. And just to realize that there's a bigger picture, that in the moment we may not see it, but thinking ahead, that there's going to be a moment of retrospect. I'm going to feel better. It's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. There's a reason for this. And being present in the moment, that for me it's something that I think it takes me through life. And I think it's something that we can all
We can all
live
use that
by.
message. Yes,
Yeah. We all
absolutely.
have our own stories.
100%. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Devorah. We wish
My
you
pleasure.
Nachas from all your children and only good health
Amen.
and happiness. Thank
Thank
you.
you. You too. Good night.